Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to Mallory's Weird World Adventures, the podcast. I'm your host, Mallory, and I'm here to show you just how weird this world of ours is today. And I'm here today with my good friend, Marston Hefner. Hi, Marston. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey Mallory, we have many memories together playing video games and watching anime and just watching some Scooby Doo too.
I was going to say Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
Definitely. Marston and I go back. Our friendship is over a decade old. I think it started with pub crawls, right? And then
And then it went to weekly Super Smash Brothers sessions and we had some holiday dinners
mhm,
um, and we went to Comic-Con together, which
we
was a
did.
blast. Yeah.
That was amazing. I have so many good memories from that Comic-Con because I'm such a nerd at heart. And that was, I want to say maybe 2014 or 2015. And there were still some Buffy tracks. So I was really excited to get to jump in and see some of the Buffy shenanigans going on at Comic-Con.
You loved Buffy and you loved the other Buffy show. The
Angel, yes, Angel is my all-time favorite show.
Yes. And then I think we watched Cabin in the Woods together.
We did. I remember being very
Did we?
delayed in watching that, which is sad because I feel like at the time, as like a Whedonverse fan, I did not do my due diligence and see it in theaters.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't watch Buffy and you were trying to get me to watch Buffy and Angel, but I'm a huge Cabin in the Woods buff, so that's my way into the Josh Whedon universe. Yeah.
And it has Amy Acker in it, who is one of my favorite people in the world. She's just like my favorite actress if I had to pick somebody because she was Fred on Angel and she's that female scientist that's in Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah. The whole that whole movie is a huge mind fuck and it's a psychedelic trip and it took the genre and then it's hard to explain it. It can only work in a movie with a high budget,
Hmm.
and those two things are required. And so I'm sure someone came up with some groundbreaking script at some point that was just like that, but they didn't have Josh Whedon's budget,
Hmm.
and it didn't look as great. So all the stars aligned on that one. And then the studio pushed back and he just pulled his trump card and said, I'm not going to work with you if you don't make this awesome, weird thing. And it worked.
That's kind of what I respected about him. I know he wound up being a really horrible person and had a lot of controversy, which is unfortunate, but I still respect the artist that he was and the things that he was able to do. And he did that in the original Buffy movie, the one that was in the late 80s or early 90s that had Christy Swanson. They didn't do it the way he wanted to do it, so he walked. And back then he wasn't anybody, so they let him walk. And then by the time he created the TV show and it was such a success, and then moved forward into Cabin in the Woods, and he had that credibility at that time to do that and stand on his own, and they accepted it. And it's so clever and bizarre and wonky and
That's the artists. That's what artists do. Normal people go through life and they have a boss, and the boss does something that's shady, or the boss does something that is manipulative, or it undercuts their customers, or it's just standard business practice to take advantage. And it's the artist who looks at normal people and goes, "That's not what I want."
Mhm,
And it's the studio's job to say we're going to make as much money as we want here,
mhm,
and this weird script doesn't fit our formula. And it's Josh Whedon's job to have some integrity and to say, uh, I don't care what everyone wants, or I don't care what they want. This
mhm.
is what it's having that internal compass. The internal compass is a job of an artist. And so that says a lot about him. And I don't know about the sexual scandal, so take that into account. I just know that that shows integrity. Yeah.
Definitely. I think you can take the person and separate them sometimes, from the art that they make and recognize that the product is different than the person. And I can still like maybe not respect the person or, validate them in any way, but have respect for the art that they've created.
Yeah, I struggle with that. Like I wrote a short story collection called High School Romance.
Mhm.
And in the process of writing that book, which explores relationships and dark humor, kind of like Todd Solondz's movie Happiness does.
Mhm.
I did a book review. I interviewed Gordon Lish, who's a very popular um, author,
Mhm.
and he just shit on me. And
What?
I took it, yeah. I mean, I was asking him questions, and I asked him personal questions,
Mhm.
and he shit on me. And I took it personally, and then my friend said, actually, Gordon Lish does this to every single interviewer. It's like a almost a
Mhm.
shtick. But now when someone criticizes me and then I'm asked to separate the artist from their work,
Mhm.
hmm, I'm not going to read Gordon Lish in the same joyful, carefree way that I used
Mhm.
to.
I
So,
understand that. I mean,
and will I watch Woody Allen films the same way that I would have before the allegations came up? Hmm. I don't know. I haven't tried it, but yeah.
there'll always be, I'm sure, that little voice in the back of your head that kind of pulls out some of the joy. I can see that.
Yeah, there's something,
Yeah.
right? Something changes.
Mhm.
Like objectively it changes. And we have to kind of like consciously say, I'm going to enjoy this, or there's something new that happens when
Mhm.
we learn about the character of a man or a woman.
Yes. I can definitely see that. And speaking of artists, you are an artist yourself. I definitely want to talk about some of the accomplishments that you've had for yourself recently, some of the pieces of art you've worked on, things like that. So please let me know what you've been up to. It's been a while since we've been able to catch up.
Yeah, I feel like the viewers should know you're an artist too. And so we were both writing our books at the same time, and we both shared our books at the same time, like 5 years ago. And mine was an early draft, and yours was a finished product. It was one of those books that was so good, and I knew it just happens with a lot of good art that it's a different thing building an audience
Mhm.
and building an audience and book and the quality of a work are two separate things. And I knew the book was great, and building an audience is something totally different that now we're both doing.
Mhm.
But I knew I loved the book, and it was very well written.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I wrote High School Romance, which was a short story collection full of dark humor and love and relationships. And now I'm working on a high fantasy, like it's called a lit RPG, Sword Art Online. So
I
imagine
do.
imagine Sword Art Online, but in book form. And my friends said, you have to code this into a game because I learned coding for this project. And I'm like,
Wow.
when you're reading a book, like, do you want to interact with the book? I don't. I like reading Naruto, and
Mhm.
I like watching it all happen. So I'm basically making a game
Mhm.
that's also a comic book,
Mhm.
and but the viewers get to just watch it. They get to read it as if it's a Twitch stream almost, but it's a book. So that's the idea.
That's really interesting. It's very innovative. Has that been done before?
Yeah, there is a genre called lit RPG. It's a
Okay.
very niche genre, but it's like what would be the most popular lit RPG? There's one called Dungeon Crawler Carl. Have you heard that one?
That name rings a bell, but I don't know much about it.
Yeah. So there is a genre about it,
Mhm.
but the innovative part about it is that I'm learning coding. And so the options for me are far more innovative and radical than what a standard writer can bring to like a Sword Art Online universe. I mean, I can
Mhm.
code, I can literally code stuff in there and it's going to be on the website. The preview is talesofren.com. And if you would be willing, I'll send you the link to that for the audience to check out and see if they like it.
That's really cool. So it's very, you're almost adding another dimension into the writing and bringing it to life in a new way.
Yes, yes. I mean, I see it in manga where a character will say something that has some impact and then they will switch the font. And just like that choice is not, that's not possible in a book. You can change the font to fit a character's, like if they're a devious character, you can give them a different font type.
Mhm.
Um, just little stuff like that. It's fun to improve little by little.
I feel like it helps to build the world too. If you're thinking about this text works better with this type of character, it really helps you flesh out everything in that world.
Yeah, yeah. Are you writing now?
I am a little, I take on a little too much sometimes, and I have two book contracts that are up in June. So I have two books I'm finishing for June, and then one for 2026 that I have time for, which is good. But I'm currently more than halfway through, fully just in the center of writing Haunted Hikes of the Great Smoky Mountains with my partner Michael. And it's a Falcon guide. So it's one of those guidebooks for hiking, but it's talking about the legends of the Smoky Mountains. And I never knew how many weird things existed in the Smokies, I guess. And it's very Cherokee in nature from where it started. So there's a lot of Cherokee legends. There's a witch that's supposed to haunt the mountains. There's fairies. There's synchronized fireflies. There's a bunch of traditional ghost stories, a wampus cat. There's like so many bizarre cryptids and creatures that are said to be there. So I've got to kind of actually physically go and explore that and learn about it and then kind of articulate that into like a guidebook that also serves as a story. So
I
it's been
feel like that's perfect for anyone who's camping or
Mhm.
going on a hike and wants to feel a little spooked.
Mhm.
And then they, at the end of their hike after their trail run, they open up their reading time with that book and get a little freaked out. It sounds so fun.
Definitely. That's kind of one of my favorite. I mean, I more recently studied some anthropology, specializing in mythology, folklore, occult studies, some of the weird stuff. So a lot of what I've been doing like moves kind of into strange belief systems and legends. And so that this book is a perfect opportunity to highlight it. And then there's another one about it's called the Goth Atlas, and it's 500 macabre and unusual and again bizarre places around the world. And that one's more like one of those thick hardback like picture books that has descriptions of all the places you can go. And I'm less on the design side and more of just like the storytelling and the blurbs in that one. So that one's a little bit easier, and that one's will also be finished in June and out for Halloween, I think. So it'll be perfect timing when it releases.
That's a great timing. Yeah. Yeah, my brother-in-law loves the macabre and we
Mhm.
have some macabre stores here and I get kind of spooked out by it a little bit. Like it's not even like a horror film. I just feel like, oh, that's like a dead raven right there, and ooh, I don't know.
There's
Some people
times,
like it. I shouldn't judge. Like, why would I judge it? I'm just
Mhm.
saying I don't like it, but
Right.
I know a lot of people are fascinated by the macabre. Yeah,
There was a store, we actually went out to film an episode of Weird World in Long Beach, and there was a store called Dark Art Emporium that had a lot of that. And I guess the big thing now, which was there and we saw it other places, were these like taxidermied baby ducklings. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like
yeah.
it's not maybe not for me, but it's kind of I'm like it's I like that it's cool and weird, but I'm also like, oh, that's a baby duck.
Well, it fits into the Weird World Adventures like perfectly. So maybe something to ask the people who did it. Like,
Yeah,
what are you going here? I'm assuming they want you to feel uncomfortable. That would be
definitely.
my guess.
Definitely. I definitely agree with that. So what else are you working on now, Marston? I want to hear all about what's going on in your world.
I do adult content for Room 11.
Mhm.
Room11.com is this startup that we're paying, I'm also the chief strategy officer. So
Mhm.
we're paying creators a 90-10 split, whereas other creators like only get 80-20 split.
Mhm.
So there's just like basically in the adult content world, creators bring like all of their traffic and the websites don't really advertise. So it's just clear like creators should bring their traffic to us and they'll get more money. I grew up around it. I grew up around
Mhm.
ambitious playmates
Mhm.
who wanted to do something with the money they made.
Mhm.
My choice for posing nude was to make buy Pokemon cards, but now I'm putting it towards the home.
And I wanted to ask you too about that, how you feel about that world kind of moving into this control of the creator. Because this is not something, it's new. Like, I mean, generations ago, you had a Playboy magazine or, and then it was, Playboy online. But now it's kind of put control in the hands of the models and the people that are posing. So I just want to kind of start that conversation with you on the benefits maybe of that and how you feel about that shift into it now being in control in the hands of the people that are modeling.
I think it's fascinating in
Hmm.
so many ways. I mean, one, Playboy is classy, intellectual,
Hmm.
um, sophisticated, and
Hmm.
the reason why it is seen as that is because they controlled their image. Um, they made PR, they had actual writers, they talked about politics, and so they formulated this ad campaign to make Playboy sophisticated. And if you show a nipple or if you show a vagina in Playboy,
Hmm.
that's not pornography, that's nudity.
Hmm.
But if you're in Hustler and maybe you're actually masturbating or having sex, that's over there. That's not classy.
Right.
And that distinction came, uh, I think, because Playboy controlled their narrative, and I think it's total nonsense.
Hmm.
And so what we're getting now with a creator-driven, no control over the image is, in my opinion, the masses are seeing this as, oh, let's not talk about the masses.
Hmm.
I think it's amazing because we're getting real people on platforms and they're actually successful.
Hmm.
Like if I'm looking at the variety of content creators on Room 11, we
Hmm.
have larger figures, we have nerds, we have um, all walks of life,
Hmm.
basically. And it's possible to monetize on a monthly basis with these platforms like Room 11
Hmm.
uh, in a way that was not possible with Playboy because Playboy would pay someone a flat fee. Yeah. And so with these content sharing platforms, the most important way to success is to like do what we're doing or what businesses do, which is to build a brand.
Hmm.
But now the brand is yourself. And
Hmm.
so you go on podcasts or you make a podcast or you fucking freaking do whatever you have to do to get followers and then you can make a ton of money off of on sites like Room 11.
Right.
I hear a lot of people in the social media space, they don't know how to generate income.
Hmm.
And if, for me, I don't have any hangups about getting nude. I don't see anything wrong with making money
Hmm.
off of getting nude or having sex.
Right.
Um, and so for people like me who don't feel that stigma,
Hmm.
room11.com is like an incredible way to make a
Hmm.
lot of money off of building one's brand.
Right. I
Yeah.
think it's admirable to you're kind of giving the narrative back to the creator. So the model is the person getting to tell their own story and present even nudity in a way that is the way they want it to be presented. So it gives them back the control where before they might not have had that control.
I agree. And they can portray themselves however they want. They can do whatever they want, whatever their comfort level is.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's for me as someone who stays away from 9 to 5 jobs unless they're
Hmm.
really great, like this Room 11 gig I have.
Hmm.
Um, it was a good fit because I don't like bosses.
Right. What does it feel like too, I guess, because it's less common to have men pose nude. How does it feel like? What do you get out of it? And how does it feel to kind of break that stereotype?
Well, the high school romance short story I made was very provocative. And so
Hmm.
I think I have a provocative streak in me.
Hmm.
And so I did this because I know in my head there's nothing wrong with doing this. And
Hmm.
I think it's great. And then I knew at the same time that a lot of people would be upset by it.
Hmm.
And I liked the fact that they were upset by something that there was no reason to be upset by.
Right.
And so I did it, and I was okay with failing. I was okay with being like, if I make $500 a month, like this is a win for me. My
Hmm.
family was like, oh no, and I was like, oh yes, and then it went better.
Hmm.
Um, and then the other side of that is the fact that I am a man, I think is less accepted than if I were a woman. And I'm okay with being wrong about that, but I remember telling a family member, I said, well, Denise Richards is doing it.
Hmm.
Denise Richards' daughter's doing it. And this family member said, well, that's Denise Richards. And it felt like a playmate could be a woman. Um, a woman can be feminine, but a
Hmm.
man, it wasn't okay.
Hmm.
So but I'm open to being wrong about that. Maybe it's just what it is.
I think it is less, it's at least, it's less common, so therefore people aren't as comfortable with it. Maybe that's what that thing is there, that element that makes it maybe not as accepted.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. Yeah.
I like your response to that. It makes me think of when my book first came out, I remember even like, oh my God, you're such a rebel. And you were all about that, like you like, I want to be a rebel. Like you valued that rebel mindset and defying the norm, you
Yeah,
know.
that was your book. Your book caused a stir in the Playboy inner circle, and it was your truth, and
Hmm.
you stood by it. And that's what I liked about it was the truth.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
like, I feel like I still try to carry that same ideal into my narrative with Weird World. It's highlighting things that are not mainstream that most people want to, shy away from or not celebrate. And I think there's such a beauty in celebrating just what makes people weird and in a good way. I call myself a weirdo, what makes people different, what makes them stand against the norm. And there's many places that are still like, oh gosh, no, like so offended by that word. And then there's so many people, usually artists, that are so excited to celebrate, that difference and that feeling, and they use the word weird or different as like a badge of honor. And I
Hmm.
see that in you too. You're very much who you are and you follow through with, what you want to do, and you don't let other people stop you from doing it. And I really respect that.
Thank you. And I view that that's like artistic integrity, what we've been talking about. We take our moral compass and we say, this is what we feel is right. And I'm open to learning different ways. I'm open to improving. But what I view, like we're taking our artists wherever we go into business or something like this. So yes, 100%. And yeah. Are you playing any video games right now?
Yes. I am playing Hammerwatch with Michael.
Best couples game
Yes.
ever. My 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 mistress is my best friend, Eric Whalen, and we love each other so much. He's not my actual mistress, but like we have a real bromance. Every Monday we play video games and life gets busy and careers take off, but I make time for Monday night with Eric and we are playing Hammerwatch 2, right? Hammerwatch
Yes,
2.
yes.
We're playing
It's
that too.
So much fun. I started with the archer because I'm always an archer in all of the RPG stuff that we do.
Me
And
too.
did we played D&D together, didn't we?
Yeah, once or twice, yeah.
What do you remember the campaign?
It was, I don't remember the campaign,
I
no.
don't either. We had so many that we used to do with Jimmy, and I don't know if I remember us playing D&D together. And I always played an archer so that I could take sharpshooter. And that just translates into all the video games. And the Hammerwatch, I'm like, oh, I'm going to do the archer. And I think Michael is playing the mage. And we're doing the level with like the dragon currently. We just beat the dragon last night.
So you beat the dragon on like the first difficulty level.
Yes.
So we're on the dragon right now and we're
Hmm.
getting our butts kicked. And
Hmm.
basically my friend keeps dying, which is fine. But that's what's happening. And with the archer's really fast and he can
Hmm.
shoot. So I actually think it's like an easier boss battle
Hmm.
for us than it would be for a melee character. I think
Hmm.
melee characters have a really hard time in this game because
Hmm.
like they like I don't see a way that they don't take damage. Like they have to take
Right.
damage.
Yes.
And he's a paladin. And so in
Mm.
order to do any damage, he has to get there, swipe this dragon that well the heads come up. So that would be the time to do it.
Right.
But our character's really fast and they can move around the dragon a lot easier. Um, but I've gotten a little bored with Hammerwatch. Like the
Hmm.
first one I liked, and
Hmm.
this one it feels like we read first of all the forest. There's a forest at the very beginning,
Hmm.
which is pretty much pointless. Like you're just killing mobs, getting obelisks and stuff.
Right.
And then you get to the first level of, or you get to the dungeon,
Hmm.
and the dungeon is easy. It's pretty much a given that you're going to make it through the
Hmm.
dungeon's first chapter. Then you get to the second chapter, you're probably going to make it through the second chapter too. By
Hmm.
this point, we are an hour in,
Yeah.
and we know like that first hour, we are basically playing knowing like we're going to make it to the hour mark.
Hmm.
Um, and then it all comes down to the dragon boss fight. Like we're pretty much guaranteed we're going to make it to the dragon. So
Hmm.
there's no like unpredictability going on here. It's just
Right.
like I hope that we survive this crazy dragon boss fight this
Yeah.
time.
The difficulty level between just doing the actual campaign versus the bosses is really non-consistent because
Agreed.
it's so easy to do the campaign and then you get to the boss and it's just, oh, this is really difficult and chaotic and oh my gosh, I'm not going to survive this. Yes.
So we're enjoying just like the journey, like
Hmm.
not like we're not focusing on like much other than okay, the paladin's gonna run through these treasure through the trap rooms
Hmm.
and like just making jokes and banter and stuff like
Right.
that's what we're enjoying. Um, but yeah, great game. I still like it. I think it's
Hmm.
still a great game.
Have you
Um,
ever played Disco Elysium? I'm going through that right now. It's weird and I love it.
is it a co-op?
No, so is it on I'm playing it on the portal from with PlayStation. And it's like this really psycho guy. Like he's a cop and he's totally drug rattled and he can't remember anything and he's trying to solve a murder, but he has no idea where he is or what's going on. So it's very difficult because he's his own worst enemy. It's meant to be like ironic and funny and cheeky and bizarre. And it's very funny. And I'm really enjoying that one too. And I feel like I'm getting nowhere, but apparently that's just how the game plays. So it kind of stresses me out on a deep level because I feel like I'm not accomplishing anything, but I am.
I think that's good feedback for the developers is like
Hmm.
this feels like it's going nowhere. Can you like make a progress system of some sort? And if they
Hmm.
say that's the point, well, then maybe that's the point and they're looking for that audience.
Right.
But I like to feel progress. Like when I
Hmm.
write, I want the audience to feel like they're going somewhere, that they're
Hmm.
not kind of meandering around in circles or too stagnant unless I want them to enjoy the sitting down by a campfire and telling a story. So
Right.
everything's very intentional when I'm writing, like Tales of Ren, for example. Like and progress does matter when you're writing or reading
Hmm.
or playing a video game. So I think that's good feedback.
Hmm. Yeah. What are you playing right now besides
I'm playing, um, I'm playing classic EverQuest.
hmm
Um, it's an MMORPG that was made in like early 2000s, and it hooked me as a kid when I realized thousands of people are in this virtual world full of barbarians and mages uh and warriors, and it takes 4 hours to get from one side of the continent to the other, and you'll probably die. And if you die, you lose all of your stuff, all of your gold that you had on you, unless you go back and pick up it's hardcore,
hmm
and it's so much fun. And that fantasy world is what I'm writing, and
hmm
um, I just love that escape.
hmm
Yeah.
I think the right
Um,
video game really gives you that escape, and that's a good point. Like that's the kind of thing that makes me feel fulfilled when playing a game too.
yeah, 100.
Did you play Baldur's Gate?
Yeah, I didn't like it because I didn't like it. I don't play D&D. I think people who
Mm-hmm.
play D&D love Baldur's Gate.
hmm
And then it felt like a narrow world.
hmm
Whereas right now in my life, I want to feel like I could do and explore this giant place. And it
hmm
was more of a room to room kind of
hmm
experience.
I understand that. I feel like a lot of D&D kind of games, I get the excitement out of them only because I recognize, like it's familiar to me because I've played so much D&D.
Yeah.
And we will go to, they have a store here called Battlegrounds. It's like a tabletop game kind of store. And it has a lot of Warhammer pieces and things like that. And I get really excited by like the D&D games and campaigns and things because I recognize them more than anything else.
Well, I love the world that D&D built, like the
hmm
Ixar. Actually, Ixars aren't. Are Ixars D&D? The lizard race? I just love their high races,
hmm
their dark elves and the barbarians. I mean,
hmm
EverQuest was built off of D&D,
hmm
and my book I also is based off of D&D lore. It's like the best high
hmm
fantasy world that exists, in my opinion. It's
hmm
you know, yeah,
Definitely. I'm doing a lot of tabletop games now, like traditional tabletop games. We played. There's a place near me called Unplugged, has a library of board games, and you
yeah.
go to have dinner, and it's unplugged, so you're just taking off all these board games and trying different ones, and you can see the ones that you like and the ones that you don't like before you commit to them. And it's crazy how many simple but yet deeply complex, fun little like board games there are out there now. There's just this whole other world of board games that I'm exploring that I'm just loving. And it's like they keep getting cuter but more complicated, so you don't expect them to be that complicated, but they are. And the perfect example, there's this game called Boop, and I'm obsessed with it. And it's like your board is just like a comforter. And then it has these cat and kitten figures, and you put the cats and kittens on the bed, and they're trying to boop each other off the bed. And anytime you put them next to one, they all boop each other. And there's just these rules. And it's adorable. And you're just like, boop, booping these cats. But then there's this complex level where you're almost playing chess, where like it's hard to remember what the pieces do. And there's just this complexity to winning. And you're like, man, this is a hard game. And me and Michael sat down to play it and we're thinking it's like nonsense. And we're like, oh my gosh, this game is hard.
So it immediately pulls you in because it's like this stupid, frilly
Yeah.
game that like you're coming to, and then it's like incredibly complex, which like makes it even cuter.
hmm
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It's
awesome.
bizarre. Do you play any like tabletop games or board games?
No, but I am fascinated by people who do, and Slay the Spire is so popular that people can't even get the board game. And so I saw people in my building with like Slay the Spire box,
hmm
and I knew immediately that they were the cool kids who pre-ordered it and subscribed to the Patreon because only they get this thing. And I just love that. I love nerd culture. So
hmm
but yeah, I don't play too many board games. You know what parenthood's like, and then
Oh
I'm
yeah.
I'm also doing art, and yeah,
hmm
it's not too much. I don't have too much time for board
hmm
games.
I can definitely agree with that. Well, it was wonderful catching up with you, Marston. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm so happy that we're still friends, and I want to keep helping each other in our careers and helping each other watch Scooby Doo and
Yes.
whatever the heck else we get up to. I love you to death, to kibbles and bits.
I love you too, and I'm very excited to support all your endeavors. And we should, if we're ever on the West Coast again, I will let you know because I definitely want to like catch up in person at some point soon.
We have a guest room in our new home in Portland,
Mhm.
so if you guys ever come down, you'll be up in the woods and it'll be really private and cozy.
Amazing. That sounds perfect. And we'll maybe look into filming an episode of Weird World up there because I always
Yeah.
love going and finding the weird stuff, and then we'll hang out on the way.
Yeah, and you got to tell us the haunted tales that you bring back because there's so much nature, there's so much to see here. Yeah.
Amazing. Will do. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for tuning in, everyone, today. And until next time, everybody, stay weird.